Former TYT employee brutally exposed Cenk Uygur for pretending to be outraged about health insurance companies, even though Cenk Uygur denied health care to his own employees.
Killing that guy or hurting that guy doesn't fix the system at all, right? So, like, it's the wrong way to get there. And in fact, it reminds me of like people who say, what Hamas did on October 7th is fine because Israel is so bad on the occupation and all these other things. No, you're being counterproductive. So we're all mad at, now I'm worked up. Now we're mad at Taylor Lorenz, we're mad at Haas, we're mad at all these other people for not having appropriate empathy or whatever the hell for United Healthcare CEO. I have the empathy, but
Cenk Uygur and Ana are easily two of the most shameless people in American politics. TYT started out as a junk news site that used to cover celebrity camel toes.
I wanted Jill to focus on more of the pop culture news.
Identify the camel toe.
oh boy.
Okay, so we have obtained a photo of a celebrity's camel toe. It is a close-up, so I'm up to kids if they've never seen a giant.
I don't know, I'll go Shannon Doherty.
Okay, Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian's camel toe.
Breasts, bums, nipple slips, whale tails, camel toes, legs, or feet.
Then after the rise of popularity of Bernie Sanders, TYT rebranded themselves as a progressive news outlet, even though Cenk Uygur engaged in union busting.
Are you a union buster?
No, I'm definitely not a union buster. So
There's evidence that proves otherwise, though.
what evidence? All right, brother, you've had a nice run. Bye-bye.
And then after Bernie Sanders lost, they rebranded once again as just normie liberal Democrat Joe Biden supporters. After painfully shilling for genocide Joe Biden and genocide Kamala Harris, TYT decided they had to rebrand once again. This time, TYT rebranded as Red Pill Centrists, who were canceled by the extreme left. So after years of blocking everyone on the left they disagree with, including yours truly, they now trying to pretend and trick conservatives into believing they was canceled by the left. Ana advocated for the expansion of the police state in order to break up homeless camps while demonizing homeless people in the process. They were then lightly criticized by some social democrats that TYT still allowed in their orbit. So Ana freaked out and turned into Megyn Kelly. Now Cenk Uygur stole Jimmy Dore's entire fucking flow, word for word, bar for bar. Cenk Uygur literally criticized Jimmy Dore for years for saying what he's saying right now. TYT is so fucking desperate, but this is what it looks like when you're trying to stay relevant, despite the fact that you've been wrong about everything for years. What's poppin', my friends, my family? Welcome to another edition of RBN Live on Friday. We have another banger guest. This has been a week of absolute banger guests. Welcome to RBN Live once again. Hope you guys don't mind me doing a fun story every once in a while. Things been really depressing. Then we're going to do another Syria Power Hour. I was about to show this hotspot here, but this hotspot was censored on YouTube when I posted it as a short. Zoya, I don't know if you noticed that. Savvy and JB shows was removed yesterday as well. Man, YouTube is such a hard ass right now. The shadow ban and everything. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Make sure you check if you're still subscribed. They're unsubscribing a lot of people from us. I wanted to cover this. I was about to play the hotspot. I decided not to because I didn't want this stream to be pulled as well. Where you had Joe Biden doing everything he can to escalate war against Russia during his lame duck term. Now we have NATO. And this is what I'm covering in my hotspot that's coming out today. Hopefully they don't pull that one. The reason why I think it's shady, they pulled that hotspot of me covering the United States seizing. Actually, I need to stop using that term. Stealing. That the corporate media said the United States seized Russian funds. They all use the word seize because it sounds more official. No, Joe Biden is fucking Blackbeard. He's a fucking pirate stealing Russian assets. And there's a lot of European assets. This is what I covered in my video. There are a lot of European assets that's held by Russia. So Russia could easily retaliate. So we in a situation now where we have the West and NATO that are destabilizing economic institutions. They're destroying faith in trading with the United States, trading Europe, and it's going to have a long-term consequence on not only just the dollar, but economic stability as a whole. And for what? The war in Ukraine is already lost. Despite the fact that the war in Ukraine is already lost, and this is what my hotspot is covering today, you have the NATO chief, and these people have been putting out crazy statements recently, especially Mark Rutte. I don't think that's, Mark Rutte. Yeah, this is Mark Rutte. Yeah, I was right. NATO is now telling Europeans that they have to accept poverty in order to fund their pursuit of never-ending war. Meanwhile, like you won't hear a goddamn thing from like the newly reformed Cenk Uygur, who supported the NATO proxy war, about this. There's no like post-mortem by Matt Duss and the NATO left. Have you guys noticed that? They don't even talk about this no more. They don't even talk about how their Putin arrangement and their willingness to fund a war on behalf of the Banderite regime in Ukraine completely failed. Like, does Marianne Williamson, does anyone in the NATO left has any answer for the entire generation of Ukrainians that you guys had wiped out? For what exactly? The position that we advocated for was that we should be negotiating for peace, which now the United States and Europe is floating. But what a lot of people are forgetting that Trump has no reason to accept peace. I didn't have this saved. Let me see if I can find it. Because we was yelling at the Marianne Williamson, Matt Duss left and telling them that we need to pursue peace right now. And then you had Boris Johnson, who famously tanked the peace deal. And now, like, Trump put up this quote unquote deal that was supposed to lead to peace. And I'm like, everyone was like, oh, look, this is why Trump winning was great. And Trump is definitely, this is what I was talking about. I won't finish that thought, but a lot of people are being unsubscribed from RBN. It's extremely suspicious that we will spike, and Zoya, I know you saw this as well. We will spike like hundreds of subscribers, and every time we spike, we will drop immediately. And then people will hit me up like, I was unsubscribed from RBN. It's the biggest bullshit ever. That's why I don't really fuck with YouTube no more. At least I have fun doing Hotspot because the throttling is insane. It's insane. Every time we about hit 58K, we randomly lose 100 subscribers. And then people, and not like people hate us, people reach out to me like, hey man, I don't know what the hell happened. I'm being unsubscribed. The game is rigged, man. But hey, it's fun talking to the people who are able to see my channel. That's why I still do it. But back to my original point, I'm going to cover CNN here soon. Trump put this Ukraine proposal out that floated NATO membership for Ukraine within 20 years. Russia want NATO membership off the table for Ukraine forever, my friends. So why would Russia agree to that when they have no reason to negotiate? But the most laughable thing about the peace proposal that was floated by the Trump team was that they would create a neutral buffer zone between Russian-controlled areas and Ukrainian-controlled areas. And that area will be patrolled by EU and NATO troops up for negotiation. Immediate deal killer. You guys realize that Russia went into Ukraine in the first place because they didn't want EU and NATO presence at their border. So why the hell would you even propose that? So this is my theory. My theory is I believe that Donald Trump and his team is floating bullshit that they know Russia won't accept, so they can tell their base that, oh man, we did try to pursue peace with Russia. The Russians are just unreasonable. That's just my theory. I could be wrong, but there's nothing wrong with creating theories. Because now Russian foreign ministry, they said they're not willing to make any concessions. They commented on Trump's peace proposal, and they like, this is a joke. Like, they don't even consider this a serious proposition. They assume it was Western media trolling. And meanwhile, everyone who's in the partisan matrix, they were like, oh my God, Trump is pursuing peace in Ukraine. That's how majority of channels are reporting on this. But you're only going to get a critical analysis of RBN, other Marxists who critically analyze what the capitalist class is doing. I'm telling you guys right now, this will be Trump's out for ending the Ukraine war. He don't want to be called a Putin puppet. So he's gonna he's gonna draw a hard line in the sand. Russia's not gonna back down, and the war going to continue. But I may be wrong. You never know. I may be wrong. I don't want to spoil too much of this story because I have a hotspot coming out for this. But look at this paragraph right here. I'm gonna zoom in. Actually, I think I posted this on Twitter. Let me find the. Here it is. I'll just show this. I already screenshotted it. I'm going to just read this and I'll say the rest for my hotspot come out today. Citizens of NATO member states should accept to make sacrifices such as cuts to their pensions. Because of Russia, of their health systems, their security systems, in order to boost defense spending and ensure long-term security in Europe. You want to know how you ensure long-term security in Europe? You actually advocate for peace with your global competitors. And this is why I don't see any inch for the neocons. The era of hostile foreign policy, hostile competition is over in the modern age. The time where we accept that is over. The global working class, I don't give a fuck about the capitalists. The capitalists want to dominate. We should want everyone to thrive. We want a functioning economy where the global working class will thrive. My friends, I have a simple question to ask you. And I think the answer is obvious. Which do you think would create a stronger working class in the United States? A situation where we're in global conflict with Russia and China, or a situation where we have a friendly relationship, booming trade deals that are being made, all this incredible cooperation instead of global conflict? I think the answer is obvious. The West has tricked people into thinking that conquest and thinking war is the only way we can have prosperity. It has not helped the working class in the West. So NATO is calling for Europe to spend more on their defense budgets as Germany in the UK's economy is in shambles, as quality of life continues to fail, as Americans don't have health care, as our infrastructure is falling apart. They told us that we had to spend more on war. Their strategy already failed. We need to stop taking what they say seriously. And I think that's a good pivot point here, because I want to get at least into this a little bit. We have Kevork Almassian, who will be joining us later today. So there's going to be a lot to talk about. I want to show you guys this here. And it's unbelievable how CNN, MSNBC, they can just post blatant fucking bullshit and not even get their YouTube channels demonetized. We constantly deranked, and I never lie. Never show you guys. I never tell you guys any story I can't prove. That's why I'm constantly showing you guys receipts. Meanwhile, CNN fucking post bullshit all the time, but they are not only continue to be monetized, but they're pushed in the algorithm as well. And that's why I will never understand why people trying to figure this story about Syria out. How do they not see Benjamin Netanyahu cheering for the fall of the Assad government? How do they not see the BBC, CNN, Fox News, and all these people spreading propaganda to manufacture consent for your support for the regime change and the overthrow of the Syrian government? And how does that not lead people to be skeptical about the consequences of Assad government's falling? We have Israel that is literally occupying Syria. They're in the way the government is, the government, pretty much the same thing. The media is reporting on this. It's hilarious. Look at this. Israel ordered troops to remain in Syria buffer zone. It's not a buffer zone if it's being occupied by one side, you deeply unserious children. They completely created this new term. Buffer zone is not when one side is occupying it. So in order to hide the fact that Israel is invading Syria and occupying and stealing their land, they hide it by using terms like buffer zones. What do you mean a buffer zone? And now, another thing they've been saying in the corporate media, they're in this buffer zone and they're doing it temporarily. It's only a temporarily they're going to seize the land. And when have colonial apartheid regimes ever temporarily stolen land? They tend to do it forever until they're forced to give it up by the barrel of a gun, historically. But you guys see how they brainwash people? That's why there's so many people who are otherwise good on issues like Palestine that's falling for this. Look at Al Jazeera. There's a lot of idiots. They gotta pretend like they don't know what's going on here. Like, oh my God, why is people being executed in the streets of Syria? That's crazy, man. It's crazy. Oh my God, Israel just destroyed Syria's military infrastructure. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. I can't believe they're doing it. Look, here's Al Jazeera, the biggest cheerleaders of Assad's government falling, to the point where they literally have a tab. Look at the top here. They have a tab called The Fall of Assad. That's how excited Al Jazeera has been about this. They literally got a tab about it. And now the people who've been cheering for the fall of Assad, like Al Jazeera, had to release articles like this. Why is Israel attacking Syria? What does Israel gain by attacking Syria in the wake of Assad's overthrow? Oh, you sweet summer child. You guys see how the professional managerial class, their job is to know fucking nothing? Why is Israel attacking Syria? Oh my God, it's almost like the resistance has been weakened by the fall of Assad. Oh no, that's too complex of analysis for these bums. And I'm sure this person has a degree, and that shit should be revoked. I told you guys, at RBN, we are a proletariat educational movement here. We are revoking the doctorate degrees of these morons who are getting Syria incorrect. They're all mine. Why is Israel attacking Syria? And by the way, no one will talk about. Let me fine. Here it is. Well, Al Jazeera will never talk about. Well, all the professional managerial PMC Muslim class that is cheering this on, what they will never talk about is the pipeline that Israel, Turkey, Qatar, and U.S. is carving up. And the opposition, well, I call them the opposition. It sucks to say. It's not the opposition no more. They're the Al-Qaeda Syrian government. They are 100% okay with this. They are down to meet Israeli leaders in Israel. They already said that. They said they want to have friendly relationship with Israel, and they will allow this pipeline that they always wanted to be built. So you want to know how people fall for this nonsense? It's these stories right here, which the stories that we laugh at, the stories that we find to be ridiculous, like these. Mehdi Hassan is watching this CNN segment with tears strolling down his eyes. The fucking Ilhan Omar left is ecstatic and loving this right here. Easily probably the fakest CNN news story you will see. The only thing I would consider probably worse than this segment here is when Clarissa Ward, the fakest journalist in the game, when she went to smell the quote-unquote Syrian gas that Assad used. And you guys know this, just quick before I could play this video. You guys realize that during this ravaging of Syria, with all the prisons being open, that no one is finding any Syrian gas factories Where's the Syrian gas factories at, guys? I thought Assad had a manufacturing system that he used to gas his own people. It's almost like the Syrian gas that they accused Assad of using was used by the rebel forces that was imported by the West, which is a fact. Anyway, let's get to this video. I've been talking about enough. So in order to continue to manufacture a sin about this bullshit, which I will admit that Syria is definitely harder to see through than Palestine, which I think is very black and white. But when you see the media constantly lying about this shit here, how does that not move the needle for people who are not as well read on this issue? But anyway, let's watch this insane scene where you had Clarissa Ward, CNN. They was allowed access into this prison. So after the Assad regime fell, the prisons were emptied and they were combed. I mean, for days, it was relatives. You have all these people that were scouring the prisons in Syria, releasing all the former Al-Qaeda and ISIS members, right? So what CNN would have you believe is that there was one prisoner that was left over that people forgot, and he was left in his cell. He didn't notice anyone else being freed around him. But this guy was left in a cell for months, no sunlight, he is starving. But let's continue the video here. You guys see.
After 3 months in a windowless cell, he can finally see the sky.
3 months in a windowless cell with no sunlight, and this man immediately looks at the sun. This man's brain would be fried right now if the story that was telling was true. And now, I mean, there's obviously 1,000 things wrong with the story. He got clean as fuck clothes on. He got a clean ass beard line, looking fat as hell. But the first thing he does after being in the darkness for 3 months is to look directly in the sun. I know you guys have been there where we had a long night's sleep. Let's say you party, you have some fun, you was in the darkness for a very long time. What happened when you wake up and you immediately look at the morning light? You get a headache, don't you? You get pain, a sharp pain in your eye. This motherfucker was in a dark dungeon for 3 months, and the first thing he fucking did was look at the sun. The kind of bullshit they tell y'all every day. But let's continue because we're only 5 seconds in, and this is already pure comedy. Whoever this actor they hired, demote him immediately. Let's continue.
After 3 months in a windowless cell, he can finally see the sky. My God, the light, he says. Oh God, there is light. My God, there is light.
Look at the kids. He even make sure he do the little smooch so you can hear the kids too.
Stay with me, stay with me, he repeats again and again.
So this man who apparently is starving, who's been through hell. So the human body can go without water for around 4 to 5 days. Apparently this motherfucker had no water. He is starving. The first thing they do is interview the motherfucker instead of sending him to the hospital. And now we have an up close shot at this motherfucker. What kind of spas do they have in Assad prisons? Because I have seen footage of, the Palestinians who was raped to death, of the Palestinians who was tortured by the IDF. I've seen photos of them being released for their torture dungeons, and they look nothing like this guy. They look like fucking, I gotta be respectful, but they look rough. They look rough, to say the least. Let me play a little bit more of this. We have our guest here. We will be introducing our guest, Kevork, Almassian, here very soon. I appreciate you for joining us. I'm gonna finish the video up, and I would love to get your thoughts on this. We're gonna do a deep dive into Syria in our upcoming segment.
For 3 months, I didn't know anything about my family. I didn't hear anything about my children. The fighter hands him something to eat. He barely lifted to his mouth.
So no IV. They're just gonna give him a fucking warmed up bullshit. So if you're in a situation where you just discover from prison, you're starving, you have no hydration, you go to a hospital immediately, get an IV. They got some fucking bullshit TV dinner, and then this dude pretend to shake. How is CNN not immediately demonetized for trying to sell this as a real news story to Americans? Let's finish up.
But his body can't handle it. Okay, you're okay. His captors fled during the fall of Damascus, leaving him with no food or water. That was at least 4 days ago. I'm shaking. My face is shaking, he says. The rebel tells him there's no more army, no more prisons, no more checkpoints. Are you serious, he says? Surya Harra. Syria is free, he tells him. It's the first time he has heard those words.
Bro, this is the most produced garbage ever. And this is why the United States is the most propagandized country in the world. Because at least people in China know it's state-ran media. People in the United States watch this and they think they're getting real news. Just in general, because most Americans have a lower approval of the media than they do politicians now, which is really bad. And it's no surprise because Clarissa Ward, who is respected by the establishment, has a long history of bullshitting. I was about to show you guys this clip, but for sake of time, and I want to introduce my guest soon, this is where she was lying about being under rocket fire from Hamas, which was even rebuked by Israel and the IDF. I apologize for being in this inelegant position.
Is on the ground right now. Clarissa, tell us what's happening.
Stand by.
Hi, John. So forgive me. I have a slightly unelegant position, but
I apologize for being in this slightly inelegant position I made up. That's the only thing I'm going to show you on that clip. Just for a second time, I'm going to show you guys this here. Here's Glenn. Big shout out to our friend Glenn, who exposed Clarissa Ward, who admits that she's an activist who became so emotionally involved and crushed by United States response that she is now like she's not even a journalist no more. She advocates for intervention. It is what she admits. She admits that I was advocating for intervention because she became so emotionally invested in terrorists taking over Syria. Now, question, why would a white girl from the United States be so interested in regime change in Syria? The pro-Palestine crowd, I really need you guys to ask yourself these questions. And guys, she was so upset that the Obama administration didn't accomplish regime change in Syria that she was sending angry hate messages to official White House accounts. Look at the bottom here. And I wrote Ben Rhodes an email to his official White House account and said, "Dear Ben, I hope you're sleeping soundly as Aleppo burns." At least we have the Russians to sort it out. So Clarissa Ward is sending angry Karen emails to the official White House accounts because they didn't officially overthrow Syria. That's how much of a rabid fanatic she is. Anyway, let's introduce our guest so we get some real hard-hitting analysis on this. We're just having a little fun. It is so desperate. I've seen so many segments because I'm a psychopath. I'm a psychopath that's a glutton for punishment, apparently. I've been obsessed with watching these corporate media segments on CNN, and they're not even hiding the fact that they're cheering on an ISIS, Al-Qaeda-led government. You had a segment on MSNBC where it says it was undeniably a good thing that Assad has fallen. So it's pretty sick. So let me introduce our guests so they can explain. They definitely will explain better than me because they was based out of Syria and has deep real life experience and understanding with that in this issue. Welcome to RBN for the very first time. International journalist, host of Syrian Analysis. Thank you for joining us, Kevork, Almassian. Hopefully I get that correct. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, brother, for having me. I've been a long time following your posts and tweets. I'm trying to catch your attention, but now we have we're together now finally.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad that we finally able to have you on RBN. I've been following your analysis, especially as someone who's been trying to learn a lot about the region. I definitely appreciate the knowledge that you bring on X, on Twitter, that I've been following. So I reached out to Zoe, like, man, we definitely got to have this guy on. So I'm glad we finally able to make it happen. I'm always learning a lot from independent journalists like yourself. People ask me, like, on my channel all the time, like, man, Nick, where you getting your information at? From not CNN, from people like Kevork, independent journalists who have on-the-ground experience, essentially anyone who's not Western approved. So, Kevork, welcome to RBN.
Thank you so much. Actually, I don't follow any mainstream outlet, like zero. Things pop up in front of my, like, let's say, timeline when I'm scrolling on X, but I genuinely rely on my networking and certain type of information and even analysis on reliable people who I follow on X. And it's amazing, like, despite all its downs on X and how they are trying to limit the reach of some people, but it's still the best place to follow like-minded people and create a community, and also create this certain algorithm that automatically and naturally pops up like-minded people on your stream or on your feed, and you start following them and learning about other conflicts. And since we're speaking about CNN, I just want to screen something. You can take it up on the screen if you like to, because we're mocking them now.
If you want to post it in the private chat, I can easily pull it up if you want me to.
Yeah, I will send you this link now to the private chat. You can screen it. This is another incident. This was in 2018.
Yeah.
Her colleague, basically, she went, the first picture, this one. So this is her colleague, and she was in Idlib in some refugee camp, and she was sniffing a backpack to investigate whether there has been a chemical attack in a different town. Like, first of all, the distance between the place where allegedly chemical attack happened was on the suburbs of Damascus, and Idlib is around 350, 400 kilometers away. So whoever was that survivor took the poisonous gas backpack with him or her 400 kilometers away, and she went there sniffing that backpack to investigate whether a gas attack happened. So imagine how if you can sell this reportage to your people and saying that I'm sniffing a backpack to investigate whether a gas attack happened or not, you can say anything and everything, right? Like, if your audience are too dumb, like, you have to be too dumb to follow CNN, right? I don't think that anyone with two functioning brain cells or a little bit of critical mind continue watching CNN or MSNBC.
There are a lot of these American boomers that are just too far gone, man. I'm very forgiving of people who are propaganda. I'm just telling the truth. I'm not trying to be mean, but there are a lot of these boomers. I don't necessarily blame them. They've been beaten down by the system. They've been through a lot of trauma, and now they got nothing but their mythology, because Western political culture, their news is nothing but a series of mythologies. You know what I mean? And in the gas attack faking that we've seen here is just one part of it. And in the headline of my our video today, I said this was CNN fakest propaganda segment yet. If you want to push back on me and say that this is the worst one, I will accept that. I think we have 1A and 1B, because the one we see today is so ridiculous. I've seen even shit libs. I've seen people that even fall for Syria regime propaganda still see the CNN segment that I just showed, and they were like, okay, you guys are going too far with this now.
Yeah,
but I definitely believe that these first two. Another point you mentioned, I would love you to speak more on this and more on this topic of fake news by the Western media. As I said many times before, I do believe that we're living in a golden age of journalism, because people like me and you are able to hook up. I'm blessed with the ability to speak with people from all over the world, people who are Syrian like yourself. I speak to people who lived in China. I speak to people who did report out in Moscow, the UK. We have this system where journalists are connected in a level that never was before. We had Substack, we had different streams, whatever you come up with doing. I'm more of a streamer. There are a lot of people who write, you know what I mean? There are a lot of people who dominate X. There's so many different ways to get information. And that's why I believe that right now we're in the golden age. And that's why people will say, oh, Nick, they're trying to crack down on journalism. That's because we're in the golden age. You know what I mean? But I know I spoke a lot. Anything else you want to add, Kevork?
No, actually, this when we network and we have we create this community of journalists and like-minded people, or let's say just critical minds, because we disagree probably on many things, but then we agree on other things. But there are certain principles and certain headlines that I don't think any decent human being should disagree. For example, I don't think that in 2024 people should cheer for Al-Qaeda affiliates to conquer Damascus. I don't think that is like something okay to say. And that doesn't mean that you have to support Assad. This is something that I have faced for a long time. Like, bro, I've been called all sorts of names. Like, I was called an Assadist. I was called his right hand in Europe. I was called like a government thug, which is like the Syrian version of somebody who is killing people basically to defend the government. Like I'm some sort of an assassin. I was called a spy, like all sorts of things, because I pointed out to the fact that an armed insurgency, which is funded, equipped, armed, supported by foreign intelligence, cannot achieve the national interests of the people of the country. Like if you're the CIA, if you are the Turkish intelligence, if you are the Qatari intelligence, if you're Israeli intelligence, and you funneled billions of dollars into an insurgency, what do you expect from them? Like to achieve the aspirations of the people, or to reach the aspirations of these intelligence apparatuses? Like those are logical things that we are trying to tell to the people. And unfortunately, look, they cannot say that you are a liar. Like none of them come and say you're a liar, but all of them want to come and smear you under different, let's say, accusations, which has nothing to do with reality. Now, before I came to your stream, I was having like an argument with an anti-Assad guy. I'm not a pro-Assad guy, but he's very anti-Assad guy, right? Assad is gone now. And I'm always called this Assadist. And when you point out to certain facts and you are exposing the real motivation behind the insurgency and the support of these regional players in the country, of the other side, you're basically telling to the people, like, if we're going to solve the problem in our country by exasperating the problems, like if the solutions are worse than the problems, I don't want it. I'm a logical, rational man, and I don't believe in this colorful world where everything is pink and rainbows are flying and balloons are everywhere, and then I have to choose between different colors, and I'm like, oh no, I'm going to choose the bad one. You know, no, that's not how the real world is. Like, we're telling the people we have a system, a regime, an authoritarian or not, in its place, and it provides security and safety for the people. And we had a functioning economy under this type of system until the sanctions and the war started. And we want for the people to go back to their normal lives and reconstruct and have a living and do businesses. So how many people in Syria out of 24 million would like to be in politics? This is a serious question. So what is more important, safety, security, stability, or somebody's running for office? It's like sometimes the priorities of the people, because as you mentioned, the press manipulates the people and gives them this false narrative that, look, we in the West, we are the cradle of democracy. Look, the freedoms we have here. Look how we respect human rights. The thing is that many people do not say that these governments in the West, for example, they are probably more humane with their own people, but they're very, very brutal with other people. And what matters to me is what these governments in the West want in my country. Why would I care as a Syrian if they have a democratic system in Germany or in the United States, if their intentions in my country are not positive towards me. Like they're literally eyeing to my natural resources, and we have so many historical instances how they come and take away your natural resources. They want to occupy your territory and have leverage over you, enslave you, IMF loans, and also indoctrination. Like Syria, I also argue like this is not only a political struggle, it's also spiritual, it's also ideological. Like we in our region, for example, we are more collectivist people, and we believe in the family values, and we act together. It's not an individualist culture, and the West wants to come and impose this individualist way of life on the people, and then it comes under the banner of democracy. Like it's a Trojan horse. People need to understand, like if you want to build a democratic system and it's coming on the back of insurgents funded and equipped by CIA, MI6, Mossad, Saudi, Qatari intelligence, Turkish intelligence. I mean, when the insurgents succeed and they're victorious, there is going to be lots of conflicts among these insurgents because each one of them is already supported by a different side. Like imagine there were groups in Syria funded by CIA fighting groups funded by the Pentagon, and they're fighting against each other. Like this is the same US, but different two branches in the US funding two different militias, and they're fighting against each other. So I'm not naive to believe that also Al-Qaeda affiliated group, which now occupies Syria, is going to build a democratic state. It's like, it's ridiculous. If just logically, if there was a communist revolution in the US and they overthrew the capitalists in Washington, DC, are the communists going to build a capitalist system again? No, they're going to build like what they believe in, right? This is logical. Yeah, for example, I mean, if they follow their logic and their whatever ideals they believe, they have to at least adhere to that. Like if an Islamist is carrying an arm against the government and says that I'm going to fight against this government until death because I want to establish an Islamic state. And I'm not saying anything against Islam. I'm just saying, let's speak honestly. Like if you want to establish an Islamic state, say you want to establish Islamic state, so people understand if they want to join your ranks or not. But if you sell it, rebrand it, and say those are moderate rebels, they are going to bring democracy, human rights, and then sugarcoat them and say those are diversity friendly, those are like things. Crazy propaganda, man. Like I said this joke several times, and I want to tell to your respected audience, it's like next year CNN comes and sits with Jolani and he says we are now tolerant to the LGBTQ community. You know, it's so ridiculous what they're doing. It's laughable, but because the audience of these outlets, and with no respect to them, sorry, in 2024, if you still believe in CNN, I have no like serious respect for you, because then I think that you're hopeless, you know. Like stay away.
And I said this many times on the show, because I always say this because I go hard on the people I criticize, that I actually have a lot of tolerance for people who are propagandized, like the people who are victims of propaganda. I'm ruthless against the media signs and the Al Jazeera's, the people who actually do the propaganda. And the second, go ahead if you want to chime in. Go ahead.
No, sorry to interrupt. When you mentioned Mahdi Hassan, I already had a nerve somewhere here hitting me deep inside, you know.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Like because, you know, people have sometimes, like, I'm so sorry to use this terminology, but some people have the memory of a fish. It's like 3 seconds. After 3 seconds, they already forget. Like Mahdi Hassan has been pushing establishment narrative for a long time. Yes. And now, because the Palestine issue started, these people, like, they can change their colors. You know, like the Palestine thing is a perfect opportunity to infiltrate more people, genuine people, more honest people, people who believe in the Palestine cause, because Palestine is, it's an issue, it's a compass. If you're seriously not with Palestine, I have doubts about your integrity as a person, right? So if you're with Palestine and you're presenting this position pro-Palestine, there's so many genuine people who might believe you, and you create this credibility among people, or increase your reach to more people and sell your image as a credible journalist. But then when other issues come, you are 100% on the side of the empire. This means you are not only part of the establishment, but you are a manipulator, because that's why I respect Trump, because Trump is like, the guy says, we're here to take the oil and the oil is ours, go fuck yourself, you know, this is ours. That's it, you know, like I know how with whom I'm dealing, you know, it's honest. But people like Mehdi Hassan, they do the same thing like Trump is saying, but in a sneaky way, and they always use these good causes like Palestine. Jazeera is the same thing. This is the psyop that is being repeated for long, and people always fall for it. And it's really, for me, astonishing to see when a Palestine issue comes again to the surface and everybody wants to know what's happening, and then Mehdi Hassan is on every major important podcast. Do you think that this guy is like not endorsed or not pushed to go into this podcast and just debating? No, he wants you, telling you the truth about Palestine, because there are other important issues that also concerns the establishment, which they need him in the propaganda in other issues. Like, people have to see, this is not like a one-way chess. It's like it has different layers, and these people are all like, there's so many podcasts nowadays. Before the last elections, they were all like, they pushed against the COVID thing, and we are for free speech and this and that. And once the Palestine thing started, what did they do? They all went they want to suppress the voices. They are no longer for free speech, because they use the COVID era to gain the trust of the people. But when the issue is about Israel, like this PBD guy, right? The PBD, when he was on the show of Piers Morgan, like, he's talking all sense about Ukraine, but when it comes to Israel and Palestine, so why are we sending also billions to Israel? And you feel like his brain all of a sudden switches and goes to the empire side, you know, like there is a new file he has to reach and then give you the thing that he wants you to know. But this is what I say, it's the inconsistency in this. It indicates, especially if you have a big podcast and you're a big name, it's impossible for you not to have this connection. You have people contacting you, people feeding you information, people suggesting you topics to speak about. Like, these podcasts are all there is black money going on under the table to speak certain topics and push certain narratives. Therefore, and if you go against it, you lose your money, you lose your job. Like, the podcast will be irrelevant. They can just suppress you on YouTube, and they can suppress you in the algorithm, and you're gone. Like, if you have 100,000 followers or million followers, it doesn't matter, because once they switch off your algorithm, you will not be in the suggestion lists. People will not see your podcast on the feed. So you have to search for the channel and go and check what they're posting. All these things happen. So when I see a YouTube channel whose views are above the sky and they say they're anti-establishment, I'm like, hold on. There is something
I've seen people get invited on like Piers Morgan and all these shows who got way less followers than I do.
Yeah.
But there's a blacklist if you don't play along with the PMC bullshit. They're more than happy to invite Mehdi Hassan so they can have a friendly spar. They're more than happy to invite the Hassan Piker so they can have a friendly spar. They're more than happy to invite the dumb left, who purposely get very crucial issues wrong, which is why at Revolutionary Blackout, RBN, we advocate for theory. We advocate for intelligent working class. I am not a liberal. I believe in that we all have some responsibility for our lives. I don't believe in the helpless victim theory. It's upon us to learn, because with knowledge, that is our best weapon against the establishment. But there has been a concerted effort by the professional managerial class to dumb down the left as much as possible. Don't read theory. Don't read history. Don't question the CIA. Don't question the government. And this is why I strongly put back. That's why if we have a disagreement on something that's core, it's something that has to be talked about. Like, if you're someone who, I agree with you on Palestine, we agree on Medicare for all, but you support fucking Ukrainian Nazis, nope, pause. We got to figure this shit out right now. They're just people who they muddy what it means to be anti-imperialist. Now, we'll love to get your thoughts on this because I promise you guys, it's not debate me, bro. Shit, I politely ask people who disagree with me on my Syria take to come on RBN and have a conversation with me because maybe I might get something. I may be getting something wrong, but I have core principles as an anti-imperialist. There are core principles that I have as an anti-imperialist, which mean I will never, ever support any movement that sides with the CIA, that sides with foreign nationals. If you have an organic movement against Assad, that's a whole nother conversation with the populists. But I will never cheer on a movement that completely inorganic to overthrow some sort of quote unquote dictator that providing healthcare and basic needs to the people. And what are your general thoughts on that, Kevork? Because I view Assad as very standard for the region. So people who think it's worth crippling the resistance to overthrow Assad when Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel has torture camps in their prisons. I report on this story. No one else did. No one else did other than RBN. Well, you have black men in Florida that was lighting themselves on fire in protest because prison conditions were so bad in the United States.
Yeah.
In the United States. So are we supposed to support ISIS and Al Qaeda overthrowing our government?
Yeah,
anyway, that's my rant. I want your thoughts.
There are three topics now we raise. First is the left wing. I come from a left wing family, and I've been always, my opinions were formulated and based on the rejection for foreign interference in our affairs. I have a big pride in my identity, so I always rejected this. We say in Germany, hochnäsig, like this high nose treatment, like we were peasants in the Middle East, like we are uncivilized people. I always rejected that, and I felt the arrogance in the tone of this Western political class and intellectual class and how they speak to us like we're some idiots. And I reject that premise like completely, and I feel like I have to resist that. And so I come from this standpoint that I'm an anti-imperialist and I don't want them to colonize my country or the minds of our people. But then, because the left has been so corrupted in the past 2-3 decades, that they funneled lots of money to these left-wing NGOs because they wanted to change the nature of the left wing. If the left wing is anti-war and if it's an anti-imperialist and they're pushing against the interventions in other countries, and these elites need to go to wars because this is profitable for them, they have to crush this movement, right? And the most important of these movements are in the US and Europe. Therefore, you see this hyper-focus on the left-wing groups to change the core and change the meaning of being a left wing. Nowadays, the left wing in Germany, it's like a slur. If you wanna, like you say, are you left wing? You know, people are like, it's because it become all about hysteria. It's about all about identity politics, gender. It's about the LGBT. It's about the climate. It's about everything but the main issues which we are nowadays being targeted to in Syria, and like Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, so many countries, Afghanistan, like places, hundreds of thousands and millions of people got perished. But we don't have to speak about it because one person feels offended if I misgender him, you know, like we have to really put the scope and the microscope, and now I have to speak about this case and I have to create a special bathroom for these people. They completely corrupted the left wing. And they're not left-wing. So therefore, in their eyes, I'm a right-wing person. Like even my Wikipedia says I'm a far right. Like where the hell is that even coming from? I'm not even anywhere close.
For our conversation, that's wild. Like this, it's crazy, man. Because I wouldn't even consider that just based on the conversation we're having right now. But go ahead.
Like this is the thing. Like when I speak, the people get confused because I read in the comments, people say, shit, did you read his Wikipedia? They say he's a far right. This bro has nothing to do with, like, I read the comments and people get confused because what they portray you in the press is completely different than your persona or what you're saying. But nowadays, it's if you're a journalist and you're telling the truth about these wars and you become a little bit influential, like they will come after you. And what is the best way to smear you? Are they going to say you're far left? it's not like that bad, you know, like he's far right, you know, like Jimmy Dore is a far right, everybody is far right nowadays, you know. So I think it's become ridiculous, this left-wing scene. I don't belong to this, so that's why when I don't belong for the tribe, you're right-wing, you know, you're a fascist, you're this and that. Okay, those accusations a little bit hurt me at the beginning, and now I don't give two Fs. Like, if they don't say these things about me, then I'm not doing something right, you know. Now, if we move to Assad, I think, like, if you compare Assad to other leaders in the region, he didn't do something like about on the top than any other leader in the region, but he was forced into a very brutal insurgency. So we're speaking about tens of thousands of multinational, basically, they call themselves jihadists, but we call them takfiris. Takfiris are the people who believe in a Wahhabi ideology, the Al-Qaeda ideology, and they believe, like, if you don't belong to our religion and our ideology, not only the religion and the sect, but also the ideology, then you are an infidel, and an infidel deserves to be killed, to get killed. So it became like a cycle of violence in the country, that he went to crush this insurgency, so he has to send his army. Now, if you see the casualty rate, like half the militant casualty rate is from Syrian army, and half the other is from the militants. So if there was no organized insurgency in the country and serious fighting against an organized militant groups, how could the Syrian army, which was under the order of Assad, lose 150,000 of its soldiers? Like, were they fighting against balloons? Were they fighting against ghosts? Were they fighting against trees? No, like, they were fighting against armies. How could you lose 150,000 of your soldiers if there wasn't an armed insurgency? But then, because this is portrayed as a peaceful revolution against a tyrant, and then they mix all the numbers together. So if you see what Rashida Tlaib says in Congress, she's like, Assad killed 500,000 people, right? But she's very dishonest, because 150,000 of this number are the Syrian army soldiers, and 150,000 are from the militants. And then we have the number of the civilians is not documented well. Like, we don't know how many civilians got killed, and we don't know how many of them were on this side and how many of them on that side.
The Syrian rebels was killing civilians, and the Western media blame Assad for it. We caught them doing it multiple times. Sorry, Kevork. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's not true. I'm happy for the chit and chat. In the contrary, this also brings other ideas in my brain, and that is like, if you want to throw numbers into the discussion, you have to say how many of them were soldiers, how many of them were non-combatants. Like, and if you want to say Assad killed 500,000 people, this also means that he sent his army and then he shot them in the back, right? Like, it's like there's something illogical in this discussion. And now with all these prisons, right? Like, I would say the situation in Guantanamo and Abu Ghraib and other secret prisons are way worse than it was in the Syrian prison. But that doesn't mean torture didn't exist. And this was something that even the people who were on the Assad side, they will keep talking about it and criticizing it, because they didn't want to see somebody gets tortured for example, political opinion, something that is rejected by every civilized person in Syria. But the people who stood with Assad, they stood with him for multiple reasons, because for them, he represented a symbol for this struggle against foreign intervention and imperialism, and they believe that this guy is unifying the country, and under his rules, Syria was a secular state, and everybody was free to practice his religious affairs, no interference in your personal choices, and above all, good foreign policy. But inside, we had lots of corruption in the country, and many people benefited from the war, especially in the government. Like, war is an opportunity for people to make money. This is the problem. And this happens in everywhere. The US goes to wars to make money. Even they create the war, even if there is no need for it, to generate money. But in Syria, because this was more local, there were many warlords who sucked the economy, basically, and they made billions of Syrian lira and lots of money during the discourse, and they were affiliated with the government. So people had grievances against the government because of the mismanagement of these issues. And nobody denies that. But I'm saying why the people continued standing with him, because they didn't want to see this outcome. The outcome of Al-Qaeda, ISIS, HTS, Al-Nusra, Islamic Turkestan Army, Uyghurs, Tajikis, Uzbekis, Saudis are now all in Damascus. And above all, the foreign intelligence, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey. And today the Israeli press is in Damascus. So the people rejected that, right? That's why they stood by him. But now I have to be also honest with your audience, but the way he escaped the country, everything that he established in the past with this reputation, like everything has crumbled. And people now are harshly criticizing him, even the people who believed in him and supported him, because in their eyes, if you pay, if the army pays 150,000 casualties, and then you have double that size injured people, so disabled soldiers, so you're having around 500,000 people between killed and disabled, and those are all men, like fought for you, right? And if you multiply the 500,000 to 4, because every or 3, because every family has like 4 members, it's around 1.5 million to 2 million people affected by this war directly. They have a brother, they have a son, they have a father who are either killed or injured. So leaving them all and going to Moscow, it's like a big, in my opinion, you're slapping them to the face, you know? Like, I was talking to a friend today, a contact in Damascus, and he said, look, the Syrian people paid 500,000 casualties. It could have been 500,001. Like, he's not better and not more important than other people. So they expected him to stay, like Gaddafi, for example, did till the last moment, you know? So this is the criticism. So I'm being very like clear why people supported him, why people, despite the flaws, stood with him, and then why the people criticized him. But on the other side, those who were really against him, then they wanted him gone, like from the beginning. They are divided into multiple, let's say, communities. One of which is, let's say, people who genuinely want democratic system in Syria. And they truly wanted like a positive change in the country. People had good intentions and they went to demonstrations against the government, right? But this is my subjective opinion. These people were the minority among the anti-Assad people. Like, they didn't have much power, like leverage to invite thousands of people or tens of thousands of people to demonstrate. No, the demonstrations mostly started from the mosques. And in the mosques, you had imams or, you know, the sheikhs. They were calling for like a holy war, basically, against Assad, because in their eyes, Assad belongs to a religious minority, and they see this religious minority, the Alawites, as not Islamic enough. Because Assad is not the Alawite sect. They believe in Islam, but they also believe in some philosophical teachings. And their women do not necessarily wear a hijab, mostly don't wear a hijab. Some of them also drink alcohol. So he was more like progressive than they wanted him to be. So people who say, like, this is a democratic revolution or uprising against him, I would argue that it is an uprising, but it is a regressive one. It's not because revolution is like a re-evolution, you know? No, right. This was like regressive. Yeah, for example.
Yeah, go to that's. I wish you speak on this meme because I think this was funny. You sent me this. This is a great example of what you just talking about when you expand on it. And this is Clarissa Ward enjoying the freedom in rebel areas. Meanwhile, in Syria, the Syrian government, this is the people they said need to be liberated. Yeah. And I saw a video. Once again, I've been learning a lot, especially over the last few years following accounts like yours and many others, especially many Iranian accounts. And I saw this video where there's so many people in the United States that don't know that women in Iran are not forced to wear hijabs. And I promise you, most Americans don't know that. And I see all these pictures of women in Iran looking way more liberal than suggested to us in the Western media. So anyway, Kevork, I want you to speak on this because I think that's a very fascinating point. You've been making a lot of fascinating points, and I appreciate your perspective on both your criticism and real analysis of Assad. I definitely appreciate. I would love to hear more.
Actually, like, look, under Assad, you had the choice. Like, I'm talking about now cultural and religious choice. Like, if you want to be religious and strict religious and even furthermore religious, like completely wearing a niqab, we don't even see your eyes, right? You're free. You can do whatever you want. But in the government, they decided that if you want to work in public arena, for example, you want to go and renew your passport, right, to government sector, or you go to secondary school. It's not allowed for someone to completely cover his face and eyes. Like, there has to be, you want to know with who you're communicating if you're going to deal with customers, and or you're going to teach. So this was the only two places, in my opinion, which was not allowed for people who cover completely their face, that you don't see them, to work in these places. And in any ways, in this type of community, they women do not go anyways to work, as many of them want them to be housewives, right? But hijab was completely tolerable. You can teach, you can go everywhere. So there was some secular, let's say, system in the country. And on the other side, if you're a still woman, for example, and you want to wear a miniskirt, and you're going to party or a bar and drinking alcohol, or go to party clubbing with your friends till early in the morning, it's like you're free, you do whatever you want. But under this rule now, under this so-called HTS rule, look, it's not going to be like, they're not going to impose like Afghanistan style of ruling from the beginning, because Syria is a very multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious country. It's going to be very controversial for them to impose such a rule. But what they're going to do is to impose the light version of it, right? Like, they're going to start slowly. And how do they do that? It's the same Western playbook, but in the West, they do this in these neoliberal ideas into the minds of the people through the press, through the drama, Hollywood, Netflix, songs and music, etc., etc. This is going to be the same thing in Syria, but on the opposite side. Like, this HTS is going to have control over the Ministry of Information, which means everything you see and watch and you listen is going to be in their hands. They're going to control the Ministry of Culture, which means every theater, every cinema, every drama, every Syrian series that you're going to watch on TV, production of books and everything going to be in their hands, which means they're going to filter and control and give you what they want you to listen to. And they're going to control the military. So they have controlled your brain, and they have the Jacobian force, the military, to control you. So this is going to be, in my opinion, a phase where they are trying to infiltrate every state institution. And finally, when everything is ready and they are emboldened their position, then they could come with an Islamic State. But when we say Islamic State, we also have to explain to the people, it's not going to be like an ISIS Islamic Caliphate. There's not going to be a caliph. Like Islamic State, like there is going to be president, but the constitution is based more on the Sharia laws. So jurisdiction, for example. Now, under Assad, for example, if you are in the court, you have 4 layers of jurisdictions, right? And you have the written laws, you have the explanations of the judges, you have the previous court rulings, etc., etc. And then on the 4th layer, if you don't find any law and regulation, or from the past court decisions, or the explanations of the judges, anything to rule, some file in front of you, some case in front of you, then last resort, you go to the Sharia law. But now they're going to bring the Sharia of higher importance. So this is going to cause lots of social upheaval in the country, which is, as I mentioned, multicultural. And people in the country will not be like physically exterminated, but they will feel alienated. Like the other communities will feel like they are aliens in this country. And eventually the Western governments will come and will say, oh my God, we are so sorry. You're suffering a lot. You poor Christians, you poor minorities in this country. Let me like take you as a refugee or a resettlement to Western governments. And then they empty all the other ethnicities and religions and sects outside of Syria, and they are already minorities. and they can resettle them in other countries, and then all these Islamists have full control. And this is only going to help two countries, basically, mostly. It's going to be Turkey and Israel. Turkey and Israel are the benefactors of this conflict. Turkey is going to have its mini neo-Ottoman empire now in Syria. It's going to have the full leverage and full influence over the country, and their intelligence and foreign minister are already in Syria. And then you have Israel, which loves religious states in the country, like dividing the countries on a religious and sectarian basis, divide and conquer. But then when all your neighbors are based on ethnocentric states, some states are Kurdish, some only for Kurds, and some states only for the Druze, and some states only for the Sunnis, and some states for only the Christians, then nothing stops you to become a country only for the Jews. Like if you're a country only for the Jewish people and your surroundings are multi-ethnic and multicultural and multi-religious, it makes you look like the alien in that region. But if the region is already divided into these lines, vertical lines, then this serves the interests of Israel. And we have been long arguing for this and against this type of project. But we're living at times like still many people fall for this over and over again. And I already repeated this few times, but I got really tired, like trying to tell the obvious has become so controversial nowadays. And like God gifted the people of the region so much experiences, like, and it's not even a gift, but it's like a book you can read from. Like it was Iraq in front of you, Libya, like those are open books for the people of Syria to learn and take the conclusions. But then some people still want it. So I think this is the time now for me to respect their choice, although this is going to be with a very big price and it's going to really harm Syria. It's going to have a big change and shift in the discourse of the history of Syria and the civilizational position of Syria for the future. But this is something that the NATO countries and the collective West wanted for a long time. So, and they're shooting their own leg, basically, like creating this Tora Bora type of rule in Syria and bringing all these multinational terrorists from all around the world into this, like, what are they doing? Like, why would somebody be so psychopathic to support such a project and send money? It's like, is it all about just instability? Is it just about profiting from it? Now that Assad is gone, right? Assad didn't take a loan from the IMF and didn't allow these foreign investments in the country. So they hated him. The central bank was in his hands, so they hated him. Now it's going to be like Syria is like a castrated country, basically. Israel completely obliterated Syria's weapons and air defenses, tanks and navy and airports and everything once Assad was gone, because the HTS do not want to defend their country now. They completely destroyed the army. The economy is in tatters. So who is going to rebuild the country? It's foreign investment, right? So when foreign investment comes and they build the country again, people will say, "Oh, nice! We finally have nice roads. We finally have nice brands and this and that." But what will they not realize? That none of these products are from them. Like they're going to be just the consumers of the foreign investments in the country. They are the like a bot where these foreign investors will suck the money of the people. It's like they're just making more profits from the people, and the people think that they have something nice. But these investments will come with job opportunities. I understand some people will fill their pockets and they will say, "Nice, finally I have good paid job, etc." But if these foreign investors one day decide to leave the country, or if they say, "You now have to follow this foreign policy, or we will withdraw from your country," now you are the slave of a multinational corporation. And these corporations are going to blackmail you and they will milk you till the end. Because then the alternative is, if they withdraw their investment from the country, you are going to lose. And you will not have an infrastructure, a national infrastructure to continue functioning your economy. So this is not some sort of a freedom that people are trying to portray. It's a slavery to bigger corporations, but they will, of course, sugarcoat it. Elon Musk will come and he will install his Starlink. People will have fast internet. So they will have ways to distract the people, right? To not see the bigger picture, and that is they lost their country, just like Zelensky sold his country to these bankers. It's going to be the same thing in Syria, but the people will not realize it because everybody is watching CNN and they are seeing if Clarissa Ward or this Abu Damon, whoever they are, they're finding some random people to, like, why would they fake this scene? It's like there are real cases, but when you fake it, then nobody will believe the other stories. Like, why are they doing things that harm their own narrative? So it's either because they don't respect their audience and they think that their audience are all sheeple and they will believe whatever they say, or they don't give two Fs because they did this type of fakings before and without any accountability. Like, if me and you now say something so bold and it turns out not to be true, you know how much we will lose credibility in front of the audience, that respected audience, because they expect from us to be truthful and to be genuine with them. But once we try to manipulate them, they will go away right away. But these CNN people do not care, because their salaries are already getting paid every month, and it's a big sum of money. And these people make huge sum of money that people cannot believe how rich these journalists are. They don't give two Fs if it's true or not.
Yeah, that was an amazing breakdown. That's why it was great to have you on to explain in detail what's going on in Syria. And I'm sure that a lot of the criticism of Assad is legitimate, but as an American, and I'm just speaking from my point of view, and only my point of view, I'm extremely sympathetic to what the Assad government went through, because the United States have put crippling sanctions on the country that whittled the government down to the point where they couldn't even pay their soldiers. And seeing the United States influence, that's why I personally, if you're in the region, you're from the region, it obviously makes sense for you to go extremely all out against Assad if you wish to. But as someone who lived in the empire, and this is what I imply other anti-imperialists do, I tend to have sympathy towards people who are victims of the U.S. regime, the Assad and supporters. That's how I view them. Obviously, people in the region may look at it differently, but especially as someone who lives in the most violent country. Like, once again, we go through Abu Ghraib, we can go by how our citizens are treated. Do you guys know that tear gas is a war crime? You guys know the police have been lying to people for decades about the long-term effects of tear gas, and people are starting to learn this recently because how much tear gas was deployed in places like Seattle, Baltimore, for example. Tear gas, war crime. So using tear gas and gassing your own people is okay when you use it against your own citizens in America? So I'm not saying it's all perfect, guys. I understand that. But as an American, it's not my job to be critical of them. It's critical to be critical of our government that is responsible for enabling the crimes in Syria. And the same people you will see on government websites, and I'll pass it right to you, Kevork. I would love to hear from you. You will see all these calls for elections in Syria by our government. Where's the call for the elections now?
Yeah.
You know, the government, you guys had this revolution, you overthrew Assad. When now be a great time to all right, let's see what the will of the Syrian people are, and let's establish elections, because Assad didn't allow them to do that. Isn't it interesting how they're not allowing it to happen the same way Zelensky's not allowing elections? Now, Kevork, I know you got a lot to say, so feel free to chime in.
Look, me and you, we come from the same place, even though I'm from Syria and this is about my country. But I'm not saying that I'm the one who is seeing the bigger picture and they're seeing the smaller picture. But for me, I see things from a different perspective than the people who wanted to overthrow Assad. And I saw that liberation from the bigger tyrant, from the empire, should be of a higher priority first. Like, you can't really be truly free unless you are self-sufficient, you have a strong economy, and you are independent, right, in your politics, in your economy, in your affairs. And under this so-called rules-based order, it's almost very difficult. It's almost impossible to become free, because they control the banking system, they control the transactions, they control the loans, they control the trade routes. So it's always like they are controlling your. If you want to thrive, if you want to have a better economy, then you better follow our rules-based international order. And if you want to sway away a little bit from this, then you will suffer by wars, sanctions, suffocations, etc., etc. And my aspirations were of high, like I had higher aspirations, that I want my country to be free from American imperialism. And if we don't free ourselves from American empire, then we cannot build an independent democratic state. And the proof of that is now what's happening, because now that Assad is gone and the country is in chaos, who is going to rebuild this state? It's going to be this, as I mentioned, it's going to be the empire, their allies, and these corporations of who are going to be like wolves eating the body of Syria, and then they will squeeze it till the end, and then they will leave the country when everything is finished, you know, and it's useless, you know. And this is why people like, but this means like you're with Assad. No, like I'm trying to explain to you that if you want to build a democratic state, then with the current situation that they control the banks, they control the transactions, they control the NGOs, they control the media, they control the indoctrination, the outcome of any elections is going to be in favor of the US, because they control what you think and what you see and what you hear and what you should, you should vote. So it's no longer, there is no longer a democracy if they want to control the flow of information or what you see and what you hear on TV. This has become like an exclusive club for a few people controlling almost everything, and then you have to choose between like Trump and Biden. You know, it's like who are you fooling? You know, like it's the same. I don't see much of a difference, you know, and therefore, like now I live in Germany. What's the difference in the foreign policy of the 6 political parties in the parliament when it comes to Palestine? 5 of them is like identical, and they're competing with each other who wants to be more Zionist, and that one is like a very shy on the corner guy, you know, like they don't want to raise so much noise because then they will be called an anti-Semite. So it's a climate of fear. How can a democracy thrive when you're afraid to talk your mind? Like they can't fool me. They can't fool some people in Syria, maybe millions of people in Syria. But we have been following these cases for long. And the Syrian people now, they feel like those who were against Assad, they feel like liberated. It's a momentary thing. You think you're liberated once, like for a few months, few years, and then you will see that everything you eat, everything you put in your mouth, everything your eyes see, basically, every hotel that you visit, every resort that you go, like every shore that you go to swim, everything is going to be paid. And it's going to be capitalist. When the capitalists come, you will never find a beach to swim any longer, because they will build their resorts, and there is no longer anything free for people. So.
Or they may dump military waste in the water like they did in Hawaii and like they did in the black community who are poisoned by the United States military. That's another option too, but go ahead, Kevork.
Yeah, I'm just sad that the country is on I was hopeful that we could find a political solution that both sides could come to certain compromises, and we lift the sanctions and start rebuilding the country together. But now handing over everything to HTS, it's like I also lost my country, because like first of all, HTS, if they see me in Syria anywhere close to the borders of Syria, I'm done. You know, like you will find me hanged in some square. Or executed. You know, it's that's how, like, they know me, they know my face, they know that I'm against them. So now there is a new law in Syria, which was issued today, an order by HTS. They say any journalist which did propaganda for the Assad regime and justified its crimes against the Syrian people, whether directly or indirectly. So very vague. Nobody knows what is it, what does support mean? and what is directly or indirectly, they will be prosecuted. So who is the prosecutor? Who is the judge? And so imagine how many journalists are going to stand on trial now and go to jail. And then none of these journalists like Clarissa Ward or Abu Damon, none of them will go to Syria and check on the conditions of these prisons because their guys have won. And that's all what it matters. They are the prostitutes of the establishment. They are shameless. There are no words that can describe them, you know, like they are not good people. I can't say more. They're not good people, guys.
They're awful people. The same people who pretend to care about the Syrian prison conditions, as you mentioned, will ignore what this current regime, their crackdown on journalists. And it's very similar to what's going on in Ukraine, where you had the Ukrainian regime who murdered an American journalist, Gonzalo Lira,
yeah.
Executed him, and the United States government said it would. Before he died, the United States government, I think John Kirby put out a statement that said, "Oh, we're monitoring the situation. We don't believe the Ukrainian government would do anything." And then they murdered him, and nothing happened. And these are the same people that said they're fighting for democracy in Ukraine. So be extremely careful what you're asking for, especially considering, and this is going to be a segment I'm going to cover. And I want to cover this because it's going to be our last stream of the week. And I want to get your thoughts on this trend since we're talking about the theme of democracy. I would love to get your thoughts on this because even the you see where I'm going with this, even the fraudulent interpretation of democracy in the West, they are openly rebelling against. You have Emmanuel Macron, who completely staged a coup against the left, who kicked him out. The left team with the far right to kick out Emmanuel Macron. And he failed to acknowledge the result of the election. We are seeing massive anti-democracy crackdowns. We had the Romanian court that canceled the presidential election out of fears that there was Russian influence. And it's worse because it's like all these problems. Once you speak on this problem as a whole, you have the West that is sanctioning Georgia for a foreign agents law, the same law that we have in the United States, where you essentially got to disclose if you're being paid by foreign agents. Now you have the West that are preparing sanctions on the country for that. So my point I want you to speak on this, and we can wrap up here soon, is I'm seeing the West completely crack down on the concept of democracy. We are seeing anti-BDS laws. We are seeing people arrested for protesting Israel. So many examples of this, but very broadly, Kevork, I would love for you to speak on this. Because what happened in Romania and Georgia, the blatant election interference by the West, it's so chilling to see that they're willing to do this out in the open, canceling elections like Romania. They've threatened to sanction Georgia to death. Ukraine canceling elections. Emmanuel Macron not honoring elections. It's just wild to see everything that's going on. And not only that, we had like Kamala Harris become presidential nominee without getting a single vote. Just so many of these examples. But what's your thoughts, Kevork, as we begin to wrap up?
I mean, they made themselves a mockery, you know, like how can we respect them any longer? They are, first of all, the type of politicians that we see nowadays in the West, it's so ridiculous because I think that it's on purpose to bring incompetent people to power, puppets, basically, you can control them. And then when the people are unhappy with these puppets and they want to vote the opposition, which is usually going to be on the right side because they like to bring these so-called left-wing progressives to power, the likes of AOC, for example, it's like how can I even sit with anyone like AOC and believe what she says, you know? Like, so people, ordinary people, because you don't have so much choices, they choose the alternative, and it usually comes from the right wing, and then they smear the people and call them fascists, ultra-nationalists, this and that. But people basically have frustration from the policies, and especially the economic policies. Like, Europe is headed to, also Germany, where I live, it's like everybody can feel the burden on their shoulder. It's not like a secret after the Ukraine war that we're paying almost double, and our bills have doubled. So we buy triple more extra, triple more expensive gas because Russian gas is bad. So we have to buy it from the United States, which is good gas. and we have to pay 3 times more, you know? And people start voting for the opposite parties because they want to see a better outcome. And now, because the people are voting for alternatives and the people in charge aren't happy with it, they have to control the press more. So the press is like attacking all these parties, attacking the people who are voting for these parties. And then when you have a country like Georgia, and they want to have like control over the voting aspirations of the people, because what they do with these NGOs, it's like a fifth column. It's like a Trojan horse in your country, and you don't have to hire thousands of people. You can hire probably 200, 300, 400 people on your side. And these people are well trained on igniting protests, violent protests, and creating instability in the country. And the rest will follow, right? So Georgia said, I want to know. Yeah, I want to know who's paying.
They comparing, I'll let you continue, but they comparing Georgia having a foreign agents law, which is the exact same law that we have on the book here. They're saying that it poses a threat to human rights. Like, you see what they be saying, but go ahead and continue your thought, Kevork.
Yeah, this is crazy. Like, they can say anything and everything. It's a threat against democracy. It's a threat against human rights. So they have this justification. But if under Ursula von der Leyen, when she openly speaks against the opposition parties and says they are a danger for democracy, if there is a political party that is a danger to the democratic systems in the West, this means that you have to suppress this party, right? Because how can you tolerate a party that is danger against a democracy? We want to protect our democracies. So they found their way out of how to persecute these political parties, crucify them in the press, smear them. But this is going to have, in my opinion, a counter impact, because nowadays, many people have realized that when the press attacks someone, it's like they have to be doing something good. And I have some friends in Europe, and they are in political parties like these conservative parties, and they say they were so terrified of these media attacks, and now they walk like they have a badge of honor, you know, after a few years of smears by the press. And because the people started like watching what the press says, and they just do the opposite. Like if they're attacking this,
when the ADL smeared me, as an anti-Semite, it was like a holiday in the RBN community. Like it's you should have had nothing but pride. I want to read this, and I want you to comment on it, because I was skimming this article. Look, and you read this, they talking about how scary this bill is. Oh my God, they have this foreign agents law passed by Russian-style foreign agents. Now look. And then buried down here, they tell you what the law does. Now I'm gonna read it for you guys if you guys haven't been reading it. Look at the scary law they are talking about as a threat to democracy and human rights. Under the law, NGOs and media outlets that receive more than 20% of their funds from donors outside the country must register as agents of foreign influence. What? How the fuck is that unreasonable, my friends? But anyway, Kevork, I just want to read that. I want you to continue. But how, and I'm asking you guys legit, how is that unreasonable? That is the same exact law that we have in our country right now. But go ahead, Kevork. I want you to continue.
This is the same case in Armenia. And I'm ethnic Armenian, and I followed this case. Like, these NGOs, they are everywhere. And because they come with their money, and Armenia is a poor country, Georgia is the same. Average salaries are very like $500-600 per month. So if you come with $1,000 per month or $1,200 per month for these young activists, and you groom them and indoctrinate them, and then they indoctrinate their society and the press, and like they're paying millions and millions of dollars for media outlets in Armenia for the same exact reason in Georgia, right? They want to turn the countries towards EU and towards NATO. So basically what they're doing, they're manufacturing the change in the public opinion. So this is not organic and natural change in a shift in the public opinion. And when you manufacture it through money, bribing, and indoctrination, this becomes a foreign influence on the country, right? Like this is, I don't know if there is any other explanation for it, but this is how I see.
Condemned the law. Look, and I want you to continue, but look at this part funny to me. The EU has condemned the law, saying it goes against EU core principles.
Yeah, of course. Like look, the same thing applies on the Russian NGOs in Georgia. If you're a Russian NGO, and or you're an NGO and you receive more than 20% of your funding from Russia, you are again called you have a foreign agent, or you're exerting or practicing foreign influence in your country. So this is not something exclusive against these EU-funded or Soros-funded or NED or USAID-funded organizations, but also against Russian NGOs if they exist in Georgia, because Russians are very lazy and they can't play these games like the Americans do, these soft power games. They are so, in my opinion, back in time in their propaganda machine.
Yeah.
So the Americans and the Europeans, in this case, they have exclusive, let's say, access to the people's livelihood. Like they grant them scholarships, right? Like there's so many attractions, let's say. So I'm all for the right of the Georgian people if they want to join the EU or join NATO or this and that, but this has to come from the people. Not like since 1990, also the Soviet Union is gone. Let's invest billions of dollars in these countries and shift the opinions of these people to the opposite direction. Then you're shifting, you are manufacturing the shift. This is not organic. And this is, you cannot really come and brag about it later and say, oh, the Georgian people decided to join the EU. But then if enough people in Georgia mobilized against the law or against joining the EU, you cut all aid, you blackmail them, or in Romania, you don't recognize the election results. It's become a mockery. How can we respect them or respect rules-based international order if they don't follow the orders that they set up for the West, like the ICC decision? Like this has become a kangaroo international community. The ICC is applicable on everyone except for Israel, right? And then there is a law in the US. This is the Hague Invasion Act, that they can invade basically Hague and free American personnel and allied personnel, which means Israelis and Brits, Germans, if they are held accountable for war crimes, basically invade Hague and free them. So it's if these laws and regulations are only applicable against your enforced on your enemies, this means you're weaponizing it against us to subjugate us. That's why. This is where I come from. I rejected this American-backed insurgency in the country because I know they will enslave us. I'm not a fool, and that's why I represent a threat for them, and that's why they come after me. They smear me. They make a Wikipedia page about me like I'm a far-right conspiracy theorist, because what I say has an impact on the minds of the people. If we were talking now nonsense, me and you, right, and we're just talking like complete BS. Do you really think that people would follow us? No, like people are coming here to learn something, and there's so many entertainment and low-level content on YouTube you can go and watch. Like there's so many people talking BS, like what they do during the live. Oh, see my wife. Oh, we're cooking something, like, yeah, you have these channels. But if you're coming to a podcast to learn something political and me and you are just talking nonsense, nobody will watch us. But because we're talking sense and we're influencing and we're impacting people's opinions, that's why they come after you. Otherwise, if you're nothing, you have no impact on the discourse of the conversation and the debate. Why would they bother? They wouldn't. But because we're doing something right and courageous, and also we're telling the people the truth, that's why it's dangerous. But it's also dangerous for us. It's dangerous for us. People really don't realize how dangerous it is to put your face on podcasts and speak about these cases and upset people, basically, influential people.
I'm waiting to get. I'm going to get Chairman Amali at any moment now, guys.
Yeah,
I'm not bullshit. I may be paranoid. But if they kick in the door of RBN members, you already see what they do in the room. If they Chairman Amali me, I would not be surprised. I'm already kind of prepared for that. But finish your thought.
Yeah, this is the same thing in Germany. Like if you criticize Israel enough, let's say, and you have a big following, they will come to your apartment. They will confiscate your electronics. They will say you are anti-Semite and you are hating against a racial or a religious community. Although all you say, you're criticizing crimes basically committed by people who are in charge of the policy making of Israel. They're not saints. They're not gods. They're people who are committing crimes. How can this be anti-Semitic if the occupiers of Palestine were from India or they were Hindus? were we going to be anti-Hindu, like, or I don't know, Hinduphobia or something? Like, we were criticizing the idea of occupation, subjugation, killing, like they do in Gaza and West Bank, in Lebanon, in Syria. We're talking about the killing of human beings by people giving orders to kill. We're not talking about religion. I'm not anywhere close. In whatever religion you believe, it's up to you, between you and your God. I don't care really. But if you're going to come and say, like, knock my door and bring me your book, I don't know where you're coming from, and say this home is now mine because my book says so, I think that there's going to be some resistance against it. I expect people to resist. I will resist. Like, if somebody comes to my apartment and wants to take my apartment and kick me out and my wife, what do you think I'm going to do?
Man, you better resist. If you consider yourself a man, you better resist a hostile, occupying force ruining the lives of you and your family. That's just my thoughts, but go ahead.
I, in my case, if somebody comes to my apartment with a book and says, like, I want your house, I would change the geometry of his jaw, like the entire thing would change permanently, like, how is it possible to tolerate that, So these people come and speak, like, from far away. Somebody sitting in Seattle says, yeah, but it's the only place they have, like, no, it's not the only place they have, that's bullshit. Sorry. It's safer for them in Syria, not now under HTS apparently, but it's like, if we're really going to say, like, people who were born 10,000 kilometers away in a certain religion have the right to come into to Palestine and live there and basically take my home, I think there is a little bit something illogical. Even for any normal person listening to the conversation will realize, like, no, this is not right. It's like,
that's why they have to rely on. That's why Zionists have to rely on hardcore authoritarian anti-free speech in order to shut down, because it's so ridiculous. Which is why, guys, I hope you guys are enjoying this content, because I give RBN a year. I think because if Trump and his appointees do everything they say, and there's always a possibility they won't, but if they do everything they're saying, I give us a year to exist, because MAGA have declared war on free speech and war on anyone. And I'm not talking about the Candace Owens, the Tucker. I'm not talking about the irrelevant side of MAGA. I'm talking about the MAGA that actually has power, the Ben Shapiro wing of MAGA, the wing of MAGA that actually get appointments. If they accomplish what they claim they want to accomplish, we have about a year left, because they're going to end all criticism of Zionism. But I know you probably want to. I'm sorry to interrupt. Kevork, anything else you want to add?
No worries. I just want to say, look, I also don't want to be very optimistic like you. Like, you're also not optimistic like me, which is good, because I see things are headed fast towards more algorithm-based and AI-based world, which they have exclusive grip over it again. And they will control the flow of information even further. We're trying to break through these chains, but it's very difficult. And I think the people have to really think or rethink about the perception and the idea that good always wins at the end. That's not true. It's so many cases, evil wins over the good. And we've seen so many instances in the past decades, especially because this is the incidents that I remember, at least, or I read about them. And like, they occupied countries, they killed their people, and they get away with it. And now in Gaza, it's going to be the same thing. Nobody will going to stand in front of ICC. I think both of us agree that Netanyahu is not going to stand in front of the ICC or Gallant. It's not going to happen. And so therefore, they can get away. If they can get away with it, they will repeat it. They will repeat it in the near future. They will repeat it in the long run. So I'm not really optimistic, and especially with more radicalization in the political discourse in the US, especially with the upcoming administration full of Zionists and neocons, basically. And they sold this administration as some sort of an anti-establishment. And people, when people speak about it on X and pushing this, it's like they're either idiots or they're paid. Like, what is the third option? Because there's so many paid activists on X pushing the narrative that this is an anti-establishment administration and Trump is going to drain the swamp. I think there will be I mean, if those are paid, that's at least they're filling their
They're the
pockets.
new mainstream media, and I'm so glad that you're not falling for this, because people will shit on the viewership of CNN and MSNBC, but then they will pretend that these people that do the bidding of Elon Musk and Trump or anything else other than mainstream media, they're the new mainstream media. Elon Musk pushes accounts that spread messages that he want to hear. So because of that, these accounts realize that they can make the most money by being cheerleaders of Trump because Elon supports Trump. So these people are uncritically praising the Trump administration, and they are getting massive numbers because of that. And they are the new mainstream media. The people who lied to you about Trump, the new incoming power, they are the mainstream media, and you got to treat them like that. That's my last thought. Cover any last thought?
This is what Elon Musk says. We are the media now. I think he means we are the mainstream media now. X is becoming more like a mainstream media, and we have a few journalists that he pushes all the time. And it's not a coincidence, and it's not like out of good heart. No, he collaborates with them. Like there are PR companies, PR firms. They hire these people, and these people sit on their put their asses on the chair every day, and they're just tweeting, retweeting, quote posting, arguing with people. This is their job, basically, right? So they pay to do that. So they created a class of mainstream journalists calling themselves anti-establishment and running their mouths big time on X, and they're circulating these mainstream narratives, pro-Trump narratives, let's say. And all of them come when it comes to, for example, we are against the lockdowns and forced vaccinations because it harms the kids. And then 15,000 kids got killed in Gaza, and they're like, not like nothing, zero, nothing, complete silence about it, right? Because they know once they speak, Elon Musk will kick them out from this PR firm, and they will not collaborate with them any longer. So people come and brag about, oh, look, I have 1 million now followers. Like if I had Elon Musk in my back, I have 27,000 organic growth following. From my work and from my thinking, Elon Musk is not pushing my content or any big accounts. If Elon Musk pushes my account for 1 month, I could also reach to 1 million following. It's not a big deal, you know. So people have to be a little bit wary and cautious. And most important thing, you have to notice the patterns. People lack this. Like they see the events as if they are separate events. No, they're not separate events. You really have to see it as a continuation of sequences of events and leading us to a certain place. And once you start noticing the patterns and you see the hypocrisy behind it, especially by the people of Elon Musk nowadays, you will know that there is something very, very fishy. And I have nothing against him personally. You know, I'm just saying, be honest. You know, you don't manipulate us like you are some sort of a Jesus Christ saving the world and bringing him free speech back. No, you want this app, and free speech is the best marketing strategy for you, for everybody to join, so that you turn X into the everything app. And this is going to become our wallet. It's going to become our social media. We're going to make transactions with it, identification. So many things are going to be in one app soon. So he's going to control almost everything, our data, our fingerprints probably later. So everything is going to be in his hands. And the data is the new fuel. So that's why he's giving free speech. You know what I mean? I think that what he did is good, and it really helped many, many people, including us.
I give X credit to make this a little balanced. I give X credit that I can actually post my hotspot videos there.
Yeah,
I mean, you gotta realize I can't post my hotspot videos on Instagram. I did. That account was instantly pulled. I posted one of my hotspot videos on our TikTok account, and then I stopped doing it because I got our RBN TikTok account. I got it a strike the second I started posting my videos. I was like, all right, I gotta stop doing this all our whole account. So at least X allows me to post my hotspot videos, but Elon Musk definitely manipulates the fucking algorithms.
Yeah.
Here's I want to get your last thoughts. We're gonna wrap here soon. Make sure you guys follow Kevork. I want to give you last thoughts. Anything else you want to plug? Any last thoughts you have? Any final messages to the audience? We definitely gotta bring you back on. This is a very informative, very enjoyable conversation. We can literally go for another hour if we wanted to. But I appreciate you joining us. Make sure you guys follow Kevork on
Almassian. Say it. Say it.
I've been trying my best not to. People know on my channel I'm a very bad linguist. I grew up with a speech impediment, so I'm proud that I overcame that. But I mispronounce it all the time, so I always try to be respectful. Thank you for joining us. Anything else you want to say? Anything else you want to promote?
Thank you. I just wanted for the people to stay awake and, as I mentioned, just notice the patterns and try to be united. You know, like collective work also helps. Like, don't be just individualist. Do networking and like we do. We don't know each other. We have never spoken before. And then you click on go live and discuss. And then you see like how the conversation develops. And you realize that there's so many mutual ground, even though you're born and raised in the empire and born and raised in Syria and they moved to Germany. But there's so many things mutual between people that the press refuses and rejects to show us, because if they tell you that there's lots of similarities between us and you, then how can they sell their war? Like they have to sell their war and say this peasant Kevork Almassian, and his likes in Syria, they hate your freedom and they're coming after you. So let's better go after them and kill them before they come after us.
Yeah, man, it was definitely great having you on. And you guys know, like, we are suppressed as fuck on YouTube. I do well on X. But I do this more for the experience and sharing it with you guys. I've been blessed that I've been able to speak to people from China. You know what I mean? Speak from people in Brazil, speak from people from different cultures. And that alone is an enriching experience. The fact that you guys can go through with me as well. So the number, the like, subscriptions is nothing. At the end of the day, being able to share these conversations, to be able to connect. Like, this is the first, when in the history of anti-imperialist resistance have people from across the globe. You say you're in Germany, anti-imperialist person from Germany hooking up with a Black American who resisted empire. These are truly historic times. So we got to continue to fight, build those connections, build those bridges. And I'm a big fan and supporter of your work. So we definitely got to bring you back on again. So thank you.
You will also come.
Go ahead. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up here?
No, I will also have you on my show. So I will send you an invite. So let's have a conversation.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'm going to take a break for the rest of this weekend. We have banger after bangers this week. We have Vanessa Beasley on Wednesday, Dan Cohen on Monday. Great conversation with Kevork Almassian today. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Banger after. We got a lot of content for you guys to catch up on if you didn't watch everyone live. So make sure you guys catch up. I have a new hotspot video coming out today discussing how NATO wants Europeans to accept poverty in order for them to win the war against Russia. So thank you guys for watching. Have a good weekend. Peace out.